on Marae. When does a relationship between student and teacher become too close for comfort?
In the private conversation, Mutu pushes for details about a 15-year-old's first sexual experience.
Māori and Japanese ride the same cultural wave, but will it reel in a slice of their market?
Size of the market is about $6 billion every year, and 700 metric tons of seafood are handled every year.
E ngā manukura o te motu, tēnā koutou katoa.
Tau mai anō rā ki te pai kōrero o Marae.
Parents have long been aware of the dangers of social media for young people, but have you ever wondered or worried about what teachers are saying to their students online?
Reporter Yvonne Tahana went to Matodi Bay for this unsettling story.
This former principal's troubles started on Facebook.
I didn't even flinch. That's how hearty I am.
There's no doubt people love Louisa.
She's fantastic with the kids.
Kia ora tātou katoa.
Louisa Mutu was once a celebrated teacher in the north. During her 6 years here, she was responsible for a growing role and for children who were excelling at NCEA levels 1 and 2. But that success would all come crashing down when a parent stumbled across a series of late-night Facebook messages. In the spring of last year, Tānia Ngātai's teenage daughter invites mates over for a weekend. One of them uses the computer and forgets to log off.
I went on my Facebook page. That was what I wanted to do, but the page was already opened and with the chat box opened with the tūmaki's name on it.
In the private conversation, Mutu pushes for details about a 15-year-old's first sexual experience.
You tell me, please. I'm worried.
Can I tell you face to face?
Nah, I want to know now, please. Face to face. Don't matter to me at this stage.
I don't feel comfortable at the moment saying it.
Oh, just say it, man. Geez, that's why I get hoha with girls. Boys, just say it. Look, please don't feel awkward. But did he come inside you? If he did, well, we don't want to take that risk.
That's sick. If that was my daughter, I would have knocked her out. She comes across in these conversations where she's the student's best friend. You know, she talks like she's a teenager. When things don't go her way in the conversation, she's dominant.
In July through October, there were 28 messages between the pair. Most were sent after 8 p.m, the latest at 2:30 a.m. In nearly all cases, Mutu initiates contact. They talk wānanga, haka practice, drinking sessions, contraceptives, and a rule forbidding girls in her school from having boyfriends. The teacher also shares her own troubles.
Student Y rang. He's so upset he wants to have a hui to try and fix it. But I'm hoha. I don't know.
Oh, OMG.
I know you aren't supporting his whipped ass or encouraging him, but he needs to wake up quickly. I won't stand for it.
The 42-year-old's been censured and deregistered by the Teachers' Council, but not before she argued that the student's Facebook messages amounted to a call for help. She's not alone. 16 teachers across the country have found themselves on the social media roll call of shame. In one of the worst cases, a teacher sent photos of a student to a convicted paedophile. Louisa's not the first in her family to be deregistered. In 2011, her brother was as well for kissing a 15-year-old on a mattress. Back at Matodi, the community fractures now run deep.
The community divided as soon as they found out about the complaint. The whole thing was twisted where it was not the tūmaki's fault. I was accused of stuff and then threatened by a parent. There was one man who stood up and said in this hui that if the board didn't reinstate her, there was going to be a mass exodus of whānau, teachers and tamariki leaving the school.
Some still see a way back to teaching for Louisa.
I would like to think that she would get back into teaching. She's got a lot of skills. We all agree that she crossed a line. But nonetheless, if it had been my girl, I just would have been glad that my girl had somebody to go to that they felt they could trust.
Regardless, the whole case should serve as a foghorn to teachers.
Ko ngā whakawhitiwhititanga mōhiohio a mati a Ipurangi, he me ātamatara ngā kaimahi I roto I ngā kuru kaupapa Māori. Kia tūpato.
I whakapā atu mātou kia Louisa Mutu, engari kāre ia I hia ki te kōrero mai kia mātou.
Now, last week we discussed, or you discussed actually, Ngāpuhi's treaty settlement with Treaty Minister Chris Finlayson. Now, this morning we hear from Peter Peeni, the co-chair of Te Kotahitanga, a group of hapu opposed to the Crown and the iwi's mandate entity, Tū Horonuku, who say they won't be railroaded into a settlement.
With a population of more than 125,000, Ngāpuhi is still divided on how to settle its treaty claims.
What we're afraid of is that relationships in Ngāpuhi will be fractured for generations.
Tū Horonuku is wanting to enter into negotiations with the Crown, but opposition to this process has brought the iwi to a standstill.
The majority of hapu in Ngāpuhi are being railroaded into a settlement that they simply don't want. And they've expressed this consistently to the Crown, to the Minister Chris Finlayson, and to the leaders of Tū Horonuku. They refuse to listen.
Why are they refusing to listen to you?
I think the Crown have invested a lot of political capital and taxpayer money, over $3 million worth, to the point where they just refuse to turn around. They have no exit strategy.
But last week, the Minister of Treaty Negotiations said the iwi need to make up and move on.
I'm optimistic that if people do that and put aside their personal differences, they can reach a satisfactory, or better than satisfactory, a just and a durable solution for the people of the North.
I think to a certain degree he's alluding to the fact that people like myself, who lead Te Kotahitanga, along with others, and Sanito leading Tū Horonuku, don't get on.
Do you?
Oh, that couldn't be further from the truth. I think Chris Finlayson as a minister is being really mischievous to say things like that. Basically, the Crown is trying to bang a square peg into a round hole, and they're saying we will have one comprehensive settlement, one body will settle for all of Ngāpuhi. What we're saying, Te Kotahitanga is saying, is that there are sub-regions that we call taiwhenua. They want to settle and have the quantum or the redress come back to those sub-regions, not to a centralised body.
Once all grievances are redressed, Te Kotahitanga are willing to move forward with a united settlement.
We're hoping that we can sit down with Tū Horonuku. You know, this is cousin against cousin up in the north, and we want relationships to be strengthened and to endure.
Te Kotahitanga will be meeting with the tribunal next month to discuss their case.
So we'll talk a little bit about that now and some other issues too. This morning we saw the new Labour leader Andrew Little on Q&A, so we'll be discussing that. And joining us are his MPs Kelvin Davis and Peeni Henare, along with our political commentator Willie Jackson. Tēnā koutou. Let's start with you, Peeni. We just saw the story about Ngāpuhi. What's your feeling about this? Are they being railroaded into a settlement?
Yes, and I think that's been the stance of Ngāti Hine and indeed other hapu over some number of years now. It's not that they're fully against settlement. In fact, we all know the benefits that can come with that and understand that it'll provide a good space post all of this stuff.
The argument is over the structure going forward into that process.
Yes,
Is it right?
I'd argue it isn't, because I don't feel that the representation is fair enough. I do acknowledge that there are some people on there who, me personally, I wouldn't support to be on there on such an important issue and such an important thing going forward for Ngāpuhi.
Chris Finlayson says, Kelvin, that if Ngāpuhi could just put their differences aside, they'd get a fair and just settlement. What do you think?
Well, I think everybody's after a fair and just settlement, and everyone's after a speedy settlement, but it's the structure and how does that look like, because the last thing we want is to be blowing any quantum fighting amongst ourselves in court after it. So, you know, we really need to get the sides sitting down and working it out together. In fact, someone said a couple of years back we should just lock them all in a room and tell them to come out when they've sorted out the differences.
What do you reckon, Willie? Do you reckon that would be a way to go?
It's amazing. These two fellas get on. I mean, you know. Ngāpuhi, you know, is Shane Jones always talks about it. It's, you know, it's. I suppose that they're very busy. He says at times it's volatile. I mean, up there in Ngāti Hine and Ngāpuhi, you've got two brother-in-laws against each other. You know, in terms of Wasi Shortland and Sunny.
And they both acknowledge it, yet neither is willing to back down.
No, that's right. So it's a real tough one for the Crown, because the Crown is saying Sunny and them have the mandate. But Pita Tipene has been a great kai kōrero, a great spokesman for his people up there. So, you know, they're working through it, and these sort of fellas can be a great help.
So there's going to be a hearing with the tribunal. What do you expect to come out of that?
Well, you know, the tribunal can come out with a number of things, and the government chooses to ignore or implement. Last week they came out with a great recommendation with regards to our sovereignty and rangatiratanga, and it wasn't just a Ngāpuhi kaupapa, that's a kaupapa for all of Te Ao Māori, and it was fabulous, really, and then Finlayson walked all over it. So it just depends how the government treats it.
So what do you think is going to happen with Ngāpuhi then? Do you think it's just going to be a case of, well, everyone's going to argue, but basically we're going to go ahead with this settlement process and it will be with tūhoronuku?
Well, it appears it's going to be the case that it is going to be pushed through, and you know, it makes it awkward, because the last thing we want is Ngāpuhi divided for generations to come. But then again, we've got so many social issues up there, and so many needs that we actually do need to actually progress. So, you know, it's been a dicey issue for a number of years now, and you know, like I say, maybe lock everyone in a room until they've sorted it out.
It's a hard one, though, for any government, whether it's national or Labour, because the settlement process has always been flawed, but it's the sort of best thing we've got, you know. So you call people to the hui, some don't turn up. What do? You've got great kai kōrero with Sunny Tau, you've got a great kai kōrero with Pita Tipene, and if you sit back, you can go to the back of the queue. That's the problem, isn't it, Peeni?
That's exactly right.
So, and speaking of tensions, we've got tensions in Matodi Bay, as we saw with the story with the teacher. What did you make of that story, Kelvin?
Well, it raises a really important issue around social media and teachers. I think the story there, it didn't pass the OO test. There was there was some things there that was said that.
What's the OO test?
Oh, it's just like you read it and you go, oh, as a former teacher, I just would not have gone there, would not have said those things. You know, so social media and teachers, we have to be really careful. It also raises the issue about Māori teachers in particular, how we sort of not sure whether we're teachers first or whether we're auntie and uncle first, and you know, that whole pastoral care and support is really important, but at the same time, if we're a profession, then we need to be professional, and there's some lines that we shouldn't cross, and I think that a line was crossed. You know, it was poor judgment in terms of some of the things that were written there, and you know, it's something that we have to really look at as educators, and maybe just a few protocols in terms of you know, what's appropriate and inappropriate when it comes to social media.
And perhaps it makes it even harder when you're in a small community, Peeni.
Yes, most certainly. And yeah, everyone knows everyone. Kelvin's already said the lines between auntie, uncle, principal and teacher, you know, they're blurred at best. But more awhi, more support from whānau. The more our whānau engages with schools, and this is this issue to the side, there's a wider issue around some other things around the school about how schools are run, and especially in those smaller Māori communities where you struggle to get a board together. And that's the honest truth. Or if you do get a board together, their auntie and uncle who probably aren't best equipped to deal with the administration and running of a school.
It's a huge issue that you've raised here, and I mean, how do you reconcile that? How do you solve that?
That's a good question. Getting more people involved. I know they've put out things that will allow Māori communities, and well, any community really, to be upskilled in those areas, and it's going to take some time.
Well, if you were, okay, so you know, you're in government now, what are you going to do?
Oh, look, I think that in terms of places like Matodi and all the rest of it, we just need to put more effort into those places right across the board, not just with helping communities be better at administering.
Yeah, focus training on, you know, basically recruiting the adults who have got the skills to actually run boards, and to really focus the training even more so. And also growing the the teachers and the leaders within communities now so that they can go on to become the principals. We need more Māori teachers. We need more skilled Māori teachers.
How do you attract people into the profession then?
Yeah, and again, that's another good question because there have been initiatives. There's been Teach New Zealand scholarships trying to get people into teaching. There's so many things now that people are seeing in the teaching profession, such as this, that are, people are saying, oh, look, it's just getting a bit too, I don't know, too dangerous, too tough. There's so many social issues that teachers have to deal with.
Well, that is so true. I mean, that's something that you're grappling with at the moment, isn't it, Willie? You've got a charter school underway and you're making decisions about engagement with social media.
That's right.
How are you managing that?
Oh, it's a big kaupapa, big topic, but we've got a great board and they're working through that, particularly in our areas in South Auckland where they, you know, where they go crazy with their phones. On the computers. We're going to have some strict rules, you know, and nothing wrong with having a few strict rules either. Some discipline is what we're trying to bring to the table.
And what we shouldn't do is discourage teachers from engaging with students by social media, but what we need to have is some protocols, some sort of regulation around it. You know, school policies need to be strict, as Willie says,
Absolutely.
but you know, it's the way of the future and we shouldn't be discouraging teachers and pupils from engaging in that way. We just got to be really
It's a really important but potentially dangerous tool, isn't it, social media. Let's talk about leadership issues now. Kelvin, Deputy Leader, coming your way?
No, I can rule that out categorically.
Hey, Peeni, what were you clipping about?
Oh, look, I have the highest respect for my tuakana Kelvin, and I think he'd make a fantastic deputy. Any role he'll play in the party, I think he'll do very well at it. But, you know, I think his time's come.
No, look, I got to say this. I want to be clear because I know Kelvin's a bit fucking mad, so Peeni and I will talk for him. But here's the reality. Now, if you look at the facts, in the history of Labour, we've never had a Māori Labour leader. We've never had a Māori deputy. Right, we've had some great MPs, the Joneses, the Tamahiris. You know that there's some great MPs that have gone through there. Nanaia put up an excellent showing, right, in terms of the deputy leadership.
So will she get in?
Well, no, they don't want her. They don't want her because she doesn't have the wide appeal. But that doesn't take away the fact that a Māori should have the position. That's why we're saying to Kelvin, you shush up. And the Peenis and the Nanaias they must advocate this position because here are the facts. Andrew Little's too is doing a good job and we know he's going to try and chase Jacinda or whatever. But the facts of the matter are that Māori won 6 of the 7 Māori seats. Māori were the positive in their party.
So capitalise, you're saying, look, on the strength of that backing. But do you even want to be Deputy Leader?
No, I've said from the outset that I have to get some gains in Tai Tōkera. You know, there's no point in me pretending to be a leader, a deputy leader, if I can't actually get gains for the people up north. And that's my first priority. And
so are you putting your hand up this morning and saying, it's not going to be me, there's no way?
No, I'm absolutely not going to be deputy leader.
But would you agree that Māori have got rights to claim that position? So if it's not you, it's a Nanaia, isn't it?
Look, there's going to be a Māori deputy leader and a Māori leader of the Labour Party at some stage. There'll be a Māori Prime Minister, most probably from the Labour Party.
Really, right now should be the time.
Well, it won't be me. But, you know, like, Peeni has always shown leadership skills ever since...
Stop trying to speak out of this one. We're asking you, is now a good time for there to be a deputy Māori, a Māori deputy leader?
Oh, I think any time's a good time for there to be a Māori deputy leader.
But now it's an appropriate time because these guys won 6 of the 7 seats. So if you look at it by rights, technically Nanaia Mahuta should be the deputy leader. As we all know, or the boys can't say anything, the Pākehā in the party and others would say Nanaia doesn't have that wider profile, doesn't resonate. So you need that's why you need a Kelvin type or a Jacinda type. And but they're going to, you know, if they shut Māori out here, they got to look at the kickback here. So.
I don't think we should look at it as a shutout, though. It's just that, you know, when the time is right, it will happen.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Predictions, Peeni, deputy leader, who will it be?
Oh, that's a good question. I honestly don't know.
Who should it be?
I'm not in the inner circle at the moment. I'd love to see Kelvin there. And I'll be honest about
Peeni.
So it'll be Jacinda Ardern, I think. If Little gets, if Andrew gets his way, Robinson's probably, you know, he looked traumatised. Hey, I'm very sad for Grant because I think he's an excellent candidate. Sad he missed out, but I think if it goes well for them, he gets Ardern and that placates a lot of the
There's a
department.
lot of talent in our caucus, and whoever is the deputy leader will be fantastic.
We'll find out on Tuesday, hopefully. All right, we have to leave it then. Tēnā koutou. Peeni, Kelvin and Willie. Scotty.
Great kōrero from Miriam and the boys this morning. So a delegation who called themselves the Māori Business First 15 travelled all the way to Japan to expand Māori business relations with the third biggest market in the world. The timing was intentional to cash in on the publicity already being generated by the Māori All Blacks in that part of the world. Heta Gardner was in Japan with the delegation as they looked to spread wings to Asia.
Ko ētahi ka whakaheke tōta ki runga I te whira whutupōro. Ko ētahi atu I roto ke I ngā pakitara whānui o Hapani.
We have a good relationship with Māori, and this relationship enhanced our futures.
Anei ngā kamupene Māori te kaumātahi e noho ana kanohi, ki te taha o Norio Hosomi, te tumu whakarai o Ni Sui, tētahi kamupene kai ngā piriona tāra te wāriu. He kaupapa tēnei I whakatakotoria e Anthony Ruakere no Enterprise Solutions. He hia nōna kia torotoro atu ngā pakihi Māori ki te mākete tua toru tino rahi o te ao.
Seeing an operation of this magnitude provides real value for our delegation.
He āhuatanga e kore e toko ake ia te wiki mō ēnei toki o te ao pakihi. He mātauranga e kore e tāia te tīpako ki ngā rekereke o Aotearoa.
Ki te whakaako kia mātau tēnei rōpu iti, te āhuatanga o te distribution me te marketing o ngā taonga, ngā kai o te whenua.
Beautiful. Ko te awanui huka pack tētahi e mahi ana ki roto I tēnei mākete, e iai kia neo te kani, kei whia mai he hua ki tua o te tūhono mai, ki tēnei hunga.
One of the key advantages for that is having access to market, particularly here in Japan. We've got access to auto-market as an example to sell our fruit, should we go down a collaborative marketing route, but also with some of the other trusts as well. They'll have access to markets as well once they've created that relationship.
For a country that doesn't produce enough food to feed its population, it's very obviously importing food as a large industry. And because New Zealand has such a great reputation as a beautiful country, as a safe country, and as a very high quality producer of food, it means that this is a premium market for a lot of New Zealand companies.
Ko tētahi o ngā whakawhitinga matua I waenga nui I Aotearoa me Hapani, ko te kai moana. Nā Ni Sui te pekanga 50 pai heneti o Sealord, ko te tini o ngā kai moana o Aotearoa, kei te whai wāhi kiko nei ki ngā ota markets.
Size of the market is about $6 billion every year, and 700 metric tons of seafood are handled every year.
Ko tahi rau rua te kama 5 miliona ngā tangata I konei, ko te tino kai o rātou, ko tērā te hua ngā tangaro ko te kai moana.
Ki tua o te miharo o te wāhi me te kaitā o ngā kamupene me ngā mākete, he hua māro ka kitea.
65,000 people, we didn't see one computer. And these are practices that have been held since, I think it was the 1870s that the first iteration of this market came about. And the practices have pretty much remained the same.
He akoranga hei whāngai atu ki te tini o ngai Māori, kei te kāinga.
Nā, I roto I ngā wiki tata nei, whakapāho atu ai mātou I te hunga, nā rātou nei I tito te waiata tira kua horo. Hei te rā nei, he waiata tira anō, hei whakātu atu mā mātou ki a koutou, engari paku rereke nei. Nā tui rina wehi I tito ko aio te ingoa o te waiata, kua waiata tia te waiata nei puta noa I te ao. E te ropu waiata tira o te whare wānanga o Tāmaki me te kapahaka o Manu Huia. Anei rā a ngā Huia Wade.
Composing. I like marrying the words, like the story, with the music. Like I think they have to reflect each other. They're one and the same. That's what I really love, is when you get that perfect marriage. And not only that perfect marriage, but the way it impacts on the listener. If that perfect marriage can touch, move and inspire someone, then to me that's a great song. I've done a lot of compositions about wai. I wrote an ori for my nephew around water and how this is the world he'll be born into, and it's sort of just to teach him, to prepare him for the responsibility that that we all need to take on as when it comes to wai.
There's a place in your heart, and I know that it is love.
I was a big fan of MJ. When he passed, I just wanted to make a tribute. The kaupapa is pretty much about peace. He sang a lot about that. That's how it started. That's how the tune came about. And then I started doing the kupu. I think it sort of touches an emotional place in me. It makes me think about people I love who are no longer, with me today. I hope that they're looking down on me and they're proud of me, of what I'm doing. Yeah.
He mea tuhi a aio e tuirina wehi, engari ko te rangi o te waiata nā tuirina rāwa ko tana whanaunga a tūwhiti happy. Ka ki te koutou i etahi atu o a tātou rangatahi e tohunga ana ki te titu waiata reo Māori i roto i wā mātou paki pūmeka motuhake ka tīmata rā hei te marama o Hakihea.
Well, thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for Wakahuia and the amazing community of Kaitaia.
Nō reire, taima ngā mihi, nui tai ore ore kia koutou katoa kia mai te rā.
He mea tautoko na te manga.